him too. He is left-handed, and his favorite movie is a Pixar movie, Wall-E. Please welcome Leo Meza, who will be presenting.
Hello, everyone. There's a famous Greek doctor from ancient times who said that black bile was inside the human body when we got sick. But he only described this sickness, this black bile, with two sicknesses. That's depression and cancer, which I always thought was strange. Now, I know that we've all been through something like this at one point in our lives, and we never really get a chance to talk about why. Especially with the state of the world, it's common, but we don't talk about why. But the only thing I can do is share my story and hope that you guys relate. I had a happy childhood. Uh, This is remember it. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of playing around. There was a lot of foolishness. But I only had this because I had siblings that I grew up with. I had two brothers and one sister. We used to play kick the can outside. We shared everything. But no matter what happened, I always had this feeling that whatever happened, we would go through it together. Still was happy. But like anything goes in life, we were born to unfit parents, and it's not their fault. They were inexperienced, they were too young, they didn't know what it meant to raise children. So by the time we were around 5 years old, we were surrendered into the foster care system. And everything, all that happiness that I remember, suddenly it looked like I was never gonna see them again. That's tough. There's a lot of uncertainty in that. It made me confused. Luckily, we had grandparents who took us in. But still, we were scared during that time. We knew what was happening, kind of, but we didn't know why. We didn't understand why. So there was a lot of hatred, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of mixed feelings while we were trying to adjust. But my grandparents were good people, and they kept going. This was a beginning, and they wanted to give us what we thought was a good life, what they thought was a good life. My grandpa, I remember he would give me $1 so I could go to the convenience store and I could buy chips and a soda. About once a week, he would go to the donut shop, get us a dozen. We could take them to school. Just little things like that. And slowly, we started building something. By the time I was 10 years old, I was getting a little bit older. My grandpa, he'd be like, "Hey, you got a girlfriend?" And I'd be like, "No, no, I don't want to talk about that." It was just little things like that that it started to feel like we were turning into something new. This was a new family, not what we had envisioned, but we were rolling with it. And unfortunately, around that time, my grandpa had an aneurysm. So then we had to mourn him. I lost the person that taught me Spanish. My younger siblings lost the only father they ever knew. My grandma lost her husband of 20, 30 years. During this time, I fell back into that depression. It felt like everything that we were building to during that time just fell apart. It was on shaky foundations. It was never strong. I stopped eating. I stopped going to school. All I wanted to do was listen to music. And I don't know when it changed exactly, but I do know that I was put in a new school. And better yet, this was a new beginning for us. I met my sweetheart there. And even though it was sad, that was electric. There was one time when we were sitting on a bench, we were eating our lunch, we were talking, and she called me kind. There's something about sharing that warmth with someone that you admire so differently. She turned me into one of the great optimists in life. I started to see all the good things. I had siblings. I had a grandma who loved me. I could run around and play soccer that I loved doing. Like I could listen to music. I had good things. And she made me want to start making these choices in my life. I wanted to choose for it to be a happy life, a good life. It was my decision. And the things that happened to me wouldn't make that decision for me. I fell in love with writing during that time. And I started studying because everybody says that's what you're supposed to do to have a good life. And I became happy again. I got a scholarship. I went to college. But then I saw how the world was working during that time, and it broke my heart. I saw what history said about humanity, and I saw how my life was a product of all of that. It feels like, let's say you're cooking and there's smoke inside your house. All you want to do is breathe. So you open a window, you open a door, and outside there's a fire. The sky is red. And you're asking yourself, what happened to the blue sky that I love so much? What happened to the life that I always wanted to live? It took time, it took practice. I tried all sorts of things, but there's something funny that the human spirit that you feel inside you, there's always something that's saying, keep going, because because keep going. You deserve it. For the people that call you a brother, for the people that want to see you happy, but for yourself, because you deserve the chance to fight for the things that you want. You have to keep going. And I felt the human spirit inside me during that time. That no matter how bad it was, no matter how dark it felt, I always wanted to keep going. I wanted it to get better. And I tried all sorts of things. I tried to read a book on self-therapy, but I didn't like my client. I it took a lot of work and it's not easy, but as long as I had that mindset of I want to keep going, I want to keep improving, there's more things to build on, there's more things to see, there's more things to explore, then you should keep going. I Today I've written scripts that have been made into movies. I've written jokes that have made theaters full of people laugh. And I've written letters to girlfriends who said it was the most romantic thing they've ever read. But also, I have two brothers that graduated from college, and I have a sister who's a mom, so I have a niece now. And I wouldn't have been able to see any of that if I had just given up. So I will say this, keep going. Back to you, Mr. Top, Mr. Stolzberg.
Thank you. Okay.
Mark put up a good point to try to do a roundtable. We're probably not going to have enough time. If we do, we can swing back to it. But everybody who's here in the room and on Zoom, let's go ahead and either text to Leo your thoughts. You can email them, or if you want to give them to me, I'll forward them to him. But let's make sure everybody responds to Leo.